I only watched a little bit of it because I saw a few clips. So this is pretty funny.
Piers, thank you for having me.
Well, we've never met, I don't think. We've never spoken to each other. I think we've locked horns a little bit on social media in the past. I think I'm blocked by you on X. I can't remember what crime I committed, but probably Trump-related. Just first of all, what Barack Obama has said and what Chris Cuomo said there, has that given you pause for thought about what the Democrats should now do? Because it's all very well just shrieking constantly about how evil Trump is, but it clearly hasn't worked now twice. You know, the fact that the guy went away for 4 years and then came back and won again was an utter repudiation of the tactics to be him, wasn't it?
Well, first of all, I'll say I have not blocked you on X Twitter because I haven't been on X Twitter since Elon Musk acquired it. I actually left the platform. So
of course, you just have to get the anti-Elon comment in there before we get started. Of course, you have to get that one in there. Of course.
So there might be someone posing as me who's blocked you. So
I think it was prior to Elon's purchase.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so this is an interesting conversation because there is no one who is more obsessed with racial identity politics than Donald Trump. He ran the most
Let's hear that one more time. Let's hear that one more time.
This is an interesting conversation because there is no one who is more obsessed with racial identity politics than Donald Trump.
I'd like to introduce you to a person named Barack Hussein Obama. I would like for you to go back and listen to Barack Hussein Obama's speeches back in 2008. And at the time, it was very subtle, but it was clearly agenda-driven around identity politics. And Barack Hussein Obama is the reason identity politics and racial division was elevated in this country, especially after his re-election that he won. He took it to a whole nother level.
He ran the most racial identity politics-laden campaign that I've seen in my lifetime, and I've been following politics since I was 12. The point of his campaign was, if I was to sum it up, that immigrants, whom he identified as gang members from Venezuela, as people from S-hole countries, as essentially any non-white migrant or immigrant.
When she says S-hole, she means shithole countries is what President Trump referred to them as, shithole countries.
The country were vermin who were poisoning the blood of our country.
Well, he was talking about criminal, illegal immigrants. He was talking, well, hang on. He was talking, you can't misquote him off the top. This is my point, though. This is my point. I remember, let me just say something, Joy. I remember when he won in 2016. I was at the New York Knicks the next day with my eldest son, and Chris Rock was there at the next table. We got talking. I said, why do you think Trump won? And he said, you know why? He said, if someone's murdered 8 people, stop going around saying he's murdered 9. And he didn't mean Trump had actually murdered anyone. What he meant was, there's plenty to criticize Trump about. I've done it myself many times. But there's also a lot of stuff that resonates with people. And I think it's the...
that is literally what I just said. That is what I just said. There's plenty of stuff to criticize Trump on this Epstein story over. When you take it to a stupid, ridiculous level and you start making shit up that never happened, then it just makes it to the point where, all right, fine. If that's how you want to be, I don't care to have the conversation with you. If you're just going to make shit up, then what are we even doing? You shouldn't even be taken seriously. And this is always how it happens with President Trump, is that people can't just criticize him on the facts. They have to make shit up and add shit to it.
Over-exaggeration, the over-demonization of Trump is part of the problem. And your characterization of his depiction of immigrants, you said the word immigrants. Actually, what he was talking about repeatedly on his stump in his rallies was specifically illegal immigrants who come in illegally, who are criminals, who are already convicted criminals, who've come into America across the southern border in huge numbers, who are criminals. He wasn't talking about non-criminal immigrants, as you tried to put it there. So there is a difference.
False. No, first of all, it's absolutely false. Let's talk about, for one example, the Haitian immigrants in Ohio. These are people who were in the country on a legitimate visa, who are actually improving that community by taking jobs desperately.
Improving the community? What? Oh my God. Oh. Improving the community? Are you fucking kidding me right now? This is why you are jobless, Joy Reid. Holy shit.
Where people desperately needed to hire and did not have any, enough American-born employees, and they were hiring these folks. They were taking badly needed jobs. They were improving the community economically. He accused them of eating people's cats and dogs.
Yeah.
He characterized them as if they were animals.
Yeah,
these are people who his own administration had allowed into the country on a legitimate visa. And
but I agree with you.
First of all, I'll stop. Let me just.
But I agree with you.
So his all-encompassing term about immigrants being vermin and poisoning the blood of the country was all-encompassing because it included them. And in his mind, it included anyone who he said came from an S-hole country, meaning if you came from Nigeria, if you came from the Gabon, if you came from any country in Africa. He in a blanketed way depicted immigrants, again, with Nazi terminology, vermin.
Well, let's leave Nazis out
the blood of our country.
You know what? Whenever people,
wait, let me.
Yeah, but Joy, it's taken you what? It's taken you 4 minutes, and you've called him a Nazi already. Come on.
But and now, what we're seeing are masked.
Joy, it's taken you what? It's taken you 4 minutes, and you've called him a Nazi already. Come on.
But and now, what we're seeing are masked federal agents sweeping up cooks, abuelas, people who work on farms, picking up dishwashers, any brown person. And Tom Homan said, based on one criteria being their appearance, it's overwhelmingly brown and some black people. We're not seeing them sweeping up white folks on the street. Donald Trump ran a racial identity campaign. And yeah, this is America. That is appealing to, unfortunately, a lot of Americans.
Well, actually, it would turn out to be very appealing to Latino Americans who voted for him in record numbers. More Latinos voted for him than voted for Kamala Harris, the non-white candidate. More Black Americans, African Americans voted for Trump this time round than first time round. So for
statistically, it was the same. Same number of Black Republicans voted for him. That
more Black Americans voted for Trump this time than last time.
It was the same. And by the way, this is the other challenge. There is a phenomenon, and my family are immigrants, and there is a phenomenon among immigrants of slamming the door behind themselves. And by the way, more Latinas, women in the Latino community voted for Harris. But there is a phenomenon. If you talk to people who actually are in the community and study this and spend a lot of time on it, journalists who studied it, there are a lot of Latinos who want so badly to identify with Americanness that they identify against fellow immigrants. That is not a new thing.
No, but maybe they weren't identifying. Maybe they weren't identifying. But Joy,
that's not new.
Maybe they were just
blackness. Maybe
let me respond to that.
The Latino community is not new.
Let me respond to that.
This is the poster child for TDS. Like if you've ever needed like a physical example of what TDS is, listening to Joy Reid respond, this is what Trump derangement syndrome is. She has it, and she has it probably worse than anyone, or at least as bad. She's up there with the Mark Hamills of the world and the Keith Olbermans of the world. She is that bad. She is fucking insane.
Maybe they were just sick and tired of people like you, and I say this respectfully, but people like you constantly calling Trump a Nazi. Maybe they thought it was ridiculous.
Maybe don't call people vermin and say they're poisoning the blood of our country. That's not the terminology. Don't use it.
You have repeatedly, over the last few years, called Trump a Nazi. Now, the Nazis were the most despicable, awful human beings we've seen in 1,000 years. They murdered 12 million people, 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. Trump is not a Nazi. So
And
when you
first
do
of all,
that, you thought it. Let me finish.
You've just done what you normally do. I have said he uses Nazi terminology, and that's a fact.
Right.
Saying people are poisoning the blood of our country, that is Nazi talk. That is what I've said about Trump. I will stand by it, because if you're calling people vermin and saying that they're poisoning the blood of our country, you are lifting language out of the Nazi playbook. That is very different from saying that Donald Trump is perpetrating a Holocaust such as in the 1930s.
Right.
But what he is doing is straight fascism. That's not me saying it. Mark Milley, his former Joint Chiefs of Staff chair, said that he's a fascist to the core. His former chief of staff says he's a fascist. And the things he's doing, masked men snatching people off the street, not even showing any identification as law enforcement.
Let me ask you a question.
Men dragging women,
Let me ask you a question.
Children into vans. Fascism.
You've made this point.
Up. I will stand by that any day.
Let me ask you a question about immigration. It's a very interesting topic at the moment, as you rightly observe. What are the fruit you eat to stay healthy? It's actually making support health. Already been viewed the health is healthy. So my view, for what it's worth, as somebody who is an exceptional alien, is how it's described on my visa to the United States, but I have a home in Los Angeles, and I love America. I've lived and worked there for 20 years. My view is that most Americans, I think instinctively, do not have a problem with the principle of deporting undocumented workers who commit crimes in the United States. Would you have a problem with that as a policy?
As a policy, if people get a hearing and they go through a process, sure. But that is not what's happening.
No. Hold on.
Would you have a problem? I think instinctively do not have a problem. In my view, in Los Angeles, and I love America.
I want to hear how he framed this.
I've lived and worked there for 20 years. My view is that most Americans, I think instinctively, do not have a problem with the principle of deporting undocumented workers who commit crimes in the United States. Would you have a problem with that as a policy?
As a policy, if people get a hearing and they go through a process.
No. If you are here undocumented, you do not get a hearing. Get the fuck out. There is no hearing. If you didn't have to have any process to get here, then you don't have any process to get the fuck out of here. It's that fucking simple. If you are undocumented, you do not deserve a fucking hearing in this country. Taxpayer money does not need to go to you getting a fucking hearing. You need to be out. Period. End of discussion.
Process? Sure. But that is not what's happening.
No, I'm going to come to the next bit.
Hold on. That is not what's happening.
I'm going to finish my point.
It's not what's happening.
I wanted to see what you were prepared to agree with me about, because I think it's healthy to the debate, right? So we both agree about that, which is good. Now, I don't think that they should have pressed the button on deporting as many illegal immigrants who are there undocumented, but who've not committed crimes in the way that they're currently doing. That they should have sorted, first of all, people who are in the country illegally who commit crimes and deported them. Everyone would agree with it. But I agree with you. The wholesale pulling of people off the street who may have been in America for many years, got families in America who pay taxes in America. You only have to talk to farmers to understand the devastating impact this may have. So on that, I would agree with you. But I also think that, and I hope you would agree, that Donald Trump has pretty much stopped completely the number of people coming over the southern border illegally. And under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, over a 4-year period, as many as 10 million people are believed to have come over the southern border illegally. Now, you must surely think that the Trump way of securing the southern border is better for the United States than the Biden way.
First of all, if those are Donald Trump's numbers about how many people came,
she can't even take the numbers. She is going to sit there and twist this and manipulate it. That's what they always do, all the time. Oh, backed it up. I didn't mean to do that. Fuck. Hang on.
Do you think
at all Trump's numbers about how many people came in over the southern border? I don't buy them at all.
What numbers do you buy?
Anything Donald Trump said.
What numbers do you buy?
Let me go on.
Well, how many do you think it was?
Let's just say it was.
Well, Joy, how many do you think it was?
No, let's just say I'm going to stipulate to you. Let's just say it was 10 million people. Are you asking your viewers to believe that 10 million people were in the country raping and robbing rather than working on farms, working on construction
No,
sites.
I didn't say that.
We have to recall.
Guys, they're just here singing and dancing and, planting flowers. And they're very peaceful, guys. They're very peaceful. Jesus.
All that there. So again, being in the United States without documents is a civil offense. It is not a felony. And so the reality is, if it was 10 million people, we have to ask ourselves, what is the pull? America has always run, from the time that people who looked like me were enslaved, on cheap labor, on free labor to start itself as an.
I want Piers to ask her, okay? I want Piers to ask her, do you lock your doors at your house at night, Joy? Why do you lock your doors? Or maybe you live in a white neighborhood and you don't. But do you lock your doors at night? Why do you lock your doors at night? Why do you lock your doors? Like, what if a person that is, running from their evil country and they just need to sleep at night in your house and you're just going to stop them? Like, but they're just there to sleep in your house. They're not there to hurt anyone, Joy. They're just there to sleep in your house,
Empire, and then on a constant pull of cheaper and cheaper labor. That is a pull that is pulling people over. And then, of course, there's the push of the destabilization in Central and South American countries. That is the push. That push-pull is a fact of life. And it was a fact of life when Donald Trump was president the first time.
But what's that got to do with how many come over the southern border illegally?
No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with
it. If you, let's say where you end all undocumented migration to the United States, all that would do is put a burden on the pull part of it, because you have industries that desperately rely on farm labor, on construction labor.
But why shouldn't you have a system?
That's not an
but Joy, why
raising it to zero does nothing to change my life.
Joy, why shouldn't people?
But what it's done is
why shouldn't people? Let me just ask you, why shouldn't people do what I had to do when I wanted to live and work in America? I mean, just go through a proper process, and get accepted to be allowed to come into the United States. That is how a normal, well-controlled border works. So what you seem to be suggesting is that because America's economy needs a lot of workers, we should simply have a system where anyone can come in. And if that's not your belief, then how would you regulate the southern border?
I'm going to say to you that if the policy were applied the same across the board, that would be one thing. It's not. Marco Rubio's grandfather didn't do it the right way. He overstayed an order of deportation, stayed anyway, and was allowed to remain in the country. Elon Musk's brother says, and Elon Musk disputes it, but Elon Musk's brother said they overstayed their student visa, started a business which would have been illegal for someone on a student visa, were allowed to stay. They are white migrants, and somehow that was okay. What we're seeing is a selective enforcement of this outrage. If the person is brown, they need to be rounded up and put into quote unquote alligator Alcatraz, a concentration camp in Florida. If the person is white, we let them start a business and become Elon Musk.
Your terms are acceptable.
What's happening is that Stephen Miller has said he wants 3,000 people a day rounded up. And he has said he doesn't care where they have to get them. He wants ICE going into Home Depot. He wants them going on construction sites, going onto farms, and dragging brown people and into detention. They're putting people in private prisons that are unregulated by the federal government. We've heard stories of people eating rotten food, having to use.
But you still haven't told me what you would do.
She still hasn't answered the question. You got illegal immigrants running around this country in the millions. Some of them are very dangerous criminals. They are known criminals. What is your answer to get rid of them?
And so the reality is, what we have right now is we have a system of literal terrorism against brown migrants simply because Stephen Miller does not want them in the country.
As you know, they're not all brown, as you know.
Well, the vast majority are.
Well, but you haven't answered my question also. If you were running the southern border, if you were in charge, if you were the border czar, what would you do?
My favorite thing is I see David Gale in the chat, and he just puts bald in all caps. That's all he said was bald. So good. So good.
Would you let them all in, or would you stop some of them coming in?
The first thing that I would do is to look at some of the actual legislation that's been put on the table before. You have a very small number of immigration judges who deal with people who are presenting themselves for asylum, which, by the way, is perfectly legal. It is legal to present yourself for asylum, but there are scarcely any judges doing that work. Multiple times, bipartisan, members of Congress, the House and Senate, have tried to pass legislation that would end.
Has she always had a Letitia James eye? Like, has she always had this thing where like the eye is like one of her eye looks like an illegal immigrant running from ICE? I've never noticed that about her. Not that I've ever watched her long enough to realize it, but like her eye like looks like an immigrant running from ICE. It's crazy.
Increase the number of those judges. If you actually had enough people to adjudicate asylum cases at the border, it would make that easier. I've actually been to the southern border and looked at the process and looked at the previous version of detention that Donald Trump did in his first term. First of all, it was horrific, and it was abusive even then to children. But
he was outraged by Barack Obama's deportation program.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
absolutely. And I think that Barack Obama made.
You were outraged over Barack Obama's deportation policy where he deported millions of illegal immigrants, and you never fucking said a word about it. You are a lying mother effer.
Some compromises that I do not think were morally sound in order to try to lure Republicans into doing the immigration reform.
Do you know how many people he deported?
Since Marco Rubio
hang on. Do you know how many people Barack Obama deported in 8 years?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, why don't you guess?
She doesn't even know. She doesn't even know, yet she cares so much. She cares so much about the illegal immigrants and how they're treated.
I don't know and don't care.
Well, hang on. You don't know and you don't care.
What?
You've just given me...
Because it's not...
Dude, Piers is crushing her right now. Piers is setting her up beautifully right now. So you care about how illegal immigrants are being treated by President Trump, but you just said you don't know and don't care how many illegal immigrants were deported under Barack Obama's presidency, which is in the millions. I don't know how many it is, but it's in the millions.
You're just giving.
You're trying to make the issue the southern border.
Joy. You've just given me Joy. Joy.
The point is,
Joy. You've just given me Joy.
Was not dragging women.
Joy.
And
let me finish. You've just
nursing babies apart and taking.
Joy. You've just given me.
I'm sure going to tell me it's your main issue.
You've just given me
it's not my main issue. My main issue is that what we're seeing.
I'm trying to finish my sentence. You've just given me a lengthy monologue attacking Donald Trump's aggressive deportation policy. And I've simply said to you, there was a Democrat, a black Democrat president of the United States for 8 years. I'm simply asking, given that you're obviously all over every detail of the Trump deportation policy, and given you were on the airwaves in America on a daily basis through Obama's tenure, how many people did he deport in 8 years?
I do not know. You'll tell me. I'm sure.
Have a guess.
But it's probably more than 1 million people. I'm quite certain.
Have a guess.
I think each 2 million.
Right, it was 3 million.
It was more than that.
Okay.
I think it was more than that. Was it? I thought it was like 4 or 5, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, that's more than Trump. So, and a lot of it's because Trump has faced so much resistance of, deporting illegal immigrants, whereas Barack Obama never got any resistance whatsoever.
Are you as shocked by that as you are claiming to be by Trump?
It is not deportations
Many of them were brown.
That are shocking. Wait a minute. Can I answer your question?
The majority were brown.
One moment. It is not deportation in and of itself that is what is shocking to people. There are 2 things that are shocking. Number one, well, I'll do 3. One, it is not deportation to render someone to a third-party country they have no connection to.
I agree.
Rendering people to El Salvador is shocking.
And that's why he's coming back.
That was not done by Biden.
That's why that guy's coming back.
Done by George W. Bush. All right. So that is shocking.
Yeah.
Number 2,
that's why he came back.
People with deporting. Well, that's only one person. They deported more than 200
the case you're talking
people
about, he's come back
to that gulag. Yes, but they deported more than 200 people, 70% of whom CBS has determined had no criminal record
But why
whatsoever.
are you changing the subject from Obama's deportation policy?
I'm telling you, the three things that are shocking are not deportations themselves. It's deporting people, number one, to third-party countries like the Sudan, where they have no ties whatsoever, simply for the cruelty of doing it.
What ties do they have to the United States of America outside of that they are here illegally? What ties do they have to the United States of America? Why the fuck should they stay here? Why do we have to deal with it? Explain that one, Joy. Joy. Explain that one, Joy. All right, let's continue.
Essentially paying.
Okay, but I asked you about your response to Obama. Obama deported more people than any president in American history.
If someone receives, Piers, my family are immigrants. If there's a deportation process, at the end of that adjudication, you are deemed to be deportable and need to be deported.
But you're missing my point, Joy. Boy, I'm trying to politely ask you, do you condemn?
Is different from what we're seeing now.
She is trying so hard to avoid a direct question that she has set herself up for. And this is the problem with people with TDS, is that they don't actually care about the problem that they claim that they care about. It's that it's Donald Trump, so that they are offended over it because Donald Trump is involved in it. But when Barack Obama did it and did it in numbers that far dwarf what Donald Trump has done up to this point, they don't care about it. And she's avoiding that because she knows it's true.
My point, in the interest of fairness, do you condemn Barack Obama's deportation policy, given that he deported more people, let me finish, more people than any American president in history in his 8 years?
What an absolutely disingenuous argument here, because what people are yes. No, I'm gonna explain it if you'll allow me.
You didn't even know how many he deported.
Because I just said that, first of all, I think it was a moral compromise that I disagree with vehemently that Barack Obama made to try to lure Republicans who were never going to really come to the table for immigration reform. I disagree with what he did. But if there's a process for deportation, that's one thing.
Okay.
If you are rendering people with no process, if you are rendering them to third parties, and if you are kidnapping them off the streets as if this is 1930s Germany or South Africa in the 1980s, that is what I find objectionable and I find fundamentally fascist, and will stand by that every day. What Donald Trump is doing is a moral horror.
I hear you.
And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you.
I hear you. All I'll tell you is that Obama...
If you stand by that, that is what I find objectionable and I find fundamentally fascist, and will stand by that every day. What Donald Trump is doing is a moral horror.
I hear you.
And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you.
I hear you. All I'll tell you is that Obama deported a hell of a lot more people.
And fundamentally fascist, and will stand by that every day. What Donald Trump is doing is a moral horror.
I hear you.
And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you.
I hear you. All I'll tell you is that Obama deported a hell of a lot more people
but that
than
isn't
Trump.
The issue. The issue
and most
is,
of them were
was there
brown.
a process
And last time
for
I checked, Barack Obama isn't white. So it may not be
and
a
what
race
does that
thing.
have to do with Barack Obama being black? Now you're the one obsessed with race. You want to make this a racial argument. The argument is that the Obama administration,
you made it a racial
the Biden
argument.
Administration,
oh my God.
because Donald Trump
you said Trump
black
is
people,
deporting people based on their skin color.
Well, it is.
Donald Trump attacks black people? Are you kidding me right now? Hang on just a minute.
When we have a protester inside, which isn't even very often, I say, be very gentle. Please don't hurt him. We had a case where we had an African-American guy who was a fan of mine. Great fan, great guy. In fact, I want to find out what's going on with him. You know what look at my African-American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about?
All right, hang on. How can you say Trump is attacking black people, all right, when you have this right here?
It's also affecting the Hispanic people. And my numbers with the black, and especially black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I have gone through the roof with black men. Black men. I don't do quite as well with black women, I must say. I don't know why, but I'm sure that'll work out too. But
what he does. He
Well,
plays
so
racial
did
politics
Obama.
As a matter of course.
Obama did it too, only worse.
It's what his politics were all about.
Okay.
His politics are about removing as many non-white people clearly from the country as they can, 3,000 a
And
day.
that's what Obama's policy was
apparently
too.
the policy here.
That's what Obama's
apparently
policy
the
was
policy.
too.
No,
Only-
it was not. And there
only
was
as
no
we sit here-
rendering of people.
as we sit
there was
here-
a process for deportation.
as we sit here-
and you know that it's materially
As
different.
we sit here, Obama deported more people pro rata per year than Trump has
How
ever
many
done.
did he
Than
render
Trump
to
has
a
ever
third
done.
party?
Trump has
How
ever
many
done.
did he render to a third party?
I'm get-
Because what he's also doing
You're
is
outraged
using
by
the
Trump, but
cruelty
you're
of
not
the pro-
outraged by
I'm
Obama.
absolutely outraged by fascism and by
Sure,
snatching
but
people
Obama
off the
wasn't a
streets.
fascist
No
because
process.
he's
and
not-
absolutely,
Yeah,
I'm
and because
outraged by it.
Obama's got
Absolutely.
brown skin, he's not a fascist. Is that your policy?
Well, that's your simplistic, racialized way of looking
Actually,
at it.
it's
Because
yours
that is
about
what you're
Trump.
doing on this show.
It's yours
of
about
course
Trump.
It is.
Simplistic, racialized. She just described herself. This is called projection. She is projecting to Piers what she really is every single time.
No,
But
mine is
let's
about
move on.
fascism.
I wanna
and
move on,
Donald
'cause
Trump
we-
is acting
I don't
like
wanna
Idi
spend the
Amin.
whole
I'll
time
give you a
talking about
black
this.
person that behaves the way he does, trying to take people's citizenship away, denaturalizing. That's Idi Amin behavior. There's
Okay.
a black fascist that you can compare him
Okay,
to.
let's move on to. I want to just play a clip of when you lost your job at MSNBC. Let's watch this.
Hey,
My show had value. And
holy shit! I thought that was a deep fake. I've never seen this clip, so I apparently this is not a deep fake. I thought that was a deep fake.
my show had value.
Holy shit!
And
Maybe I have seen this,
that-
but I can't remember.
I'm sorry. that that what I was doing
Okay, I have seen
Had
this one.
value.
I have seen it.
had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. Whether it's talking about any of these issues, and yes, whether it's talking about Gaza and the fact that we as the American people have a right to object, to little babies being bombed. And I am not sorry that I stood up for those things, because those things are of God. And you know, I'm a church girl too, and those are the things that I was taught were of God. And so I'm not sorry. I'm just proud of my show.
Now, look, you're perfectly entitled to be proud of your show. Many people enjoyed your show for many years. You know, a lot of people at NBC were briefing that the reason was declining ratings post the election, a 47% decrease in your election, in ratings from pre-election. But you told Mark Lamont Hill on his show this.
After I said on my show that the reason Americans could relate to Ukrainians
Look at his shirt.
in a way that they didn't relate to Palestinians, that Ukrainians are white. And so watching white people get their schools bombed was, you know, hit different. That hit our ratings. I mean, it definitely, we could see the loss of white viewers from that moment that I said that.
Right.
So they were like, we don't like the name calling. And also I'm a black woman. So, I mean, I'm sure it makes him angrier, you know, when I say things.
I had no idea she was a black woman until she said that. I just want to say, like, I had no idea that she was a black woman up until this point. Just like every time I watch Stephen A. Smith, I never know he's a black man until he says, as a black man in America. And I'm like, oh shit, he's black. I had no idea that he was black until he said he was black. So since Joy Reid has informed us she is a black woman, I would just like to play this for her.
Black girl magic.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Joy Reid.
Maybe because I am a global South person myself, you know, I mean, as a black person, we have a
black
different
person.
empathy toward other global South people
I had
when
no
they're
idea.
suffering.
I had no
And so
idea.
we're going to come at that story from a different angle and in a different way and with different kinds of empathies. And I think that's not always received very well in the news business.
Now, Joy, I mean, look, let's be honest. I don't think you were fired after all those years because of your skin color or because you're a black woman. I think you were fired because your show just got increasingly unpopular. It happens all the time in TV. That's why you got let go. Why play the race card?
First of all, I love the fact that your play the race card is your version of the race card. You literally are so fixated on trying to racialize conversations with me, Piers. I find it actually quite charming.
You racialize more conversations in your tenure at MSNBC than any host in history.
All right, Mark. All right, Piers. And the bottom line is you take an entire conversation that I had with Mark Lamont Hill and pick the bits that you can racialize because this is your shtick. And I get that this is your shtick.
You racialize everything, Joy. Come on.
I get it. I understand this is your shtick, Piers. And listen, game recognized. I get this is your game.
It's not my shtick.
And the bottom line,
it was your
shtick. It is your shtick. And everyone knows
your
that it
shtick.
is. Piers, we
people
understand
got more
what
with
it is.
it.
And it is so interesting to me that you yourself, as a white European, find that when people of
dude, like, I don't know if she is just the dumbest human being on the planet. Like, or she just racialized. She literally just did it again.
That you yourself, as a white European, find that when people of color talk about race, that you believe is racializing conversations. But when people like you fixate on, well, Barack Obama was a black president, why don't you object to that? That is racializing a conversation about the former president of the United States. But you can't put your, and I'm sure you find that charming and funny.
I find it hilarious because you're the one. You're the one who said Donald Trump.
You and your friend Donald Trump.
You said Donald Trump is a white fascist.
Are so he is a well. I agree
and
with
yet
Mark
when Obama
Milley,
did the same thing,
last time I checked, is
I'm not allowed
black.
to mention his skin color.
I agree with his former chief of staff, who last I checked was not black and said he's fascist. And Mark Milley said he's fascist to the core. Okay. So I happen to agree, and I know this is what it's important to you, with two very white gentlemen about Donald Trump's fascist tendencies.
Okay.
If that makes you sad and uncomfortable, I can't help you.
No, yes, it made me sad and uncomfortable. I think it makes you a little bit of a hypocrite, but that's different. Now, President Trump reacted to your departure by saying, low-life chairman of Comcast, Brian Roberts, the owner of ratings-challenged NBC and MSNBC, has finally gotten the nerve up to fire one of the least talented people in television, the mentally obnoxious racist Joy Reid, based on her ratings, which were virtually non-existent, should have been canned long ago, along with everyone else who works there. What's your response to that?
If you are, I mean, it's fascinating to me that you think it's important that I care what Donald Trump says about me. It's a badge of honor. If he dislikes me, then I think I'm doing something right. I have zero respect for Donald Trump, and therefore, if he
really, I mean, how would we have ever known that if you wouldn't have been? Again, I am learning so much in this interview, and I got to give Piers credit. Like, we have learned that Joy Reid is a black woman. I never knew this. I never knew this. Now we have learned that she doesn't like Donald Trump. This is incredible. Like the amount of transparency that she is providing us in this interview is truly historic. And it just shows what a phenomenal journalist Piers is. Piers is actually doing a great job, though. This is funny.
Feels the same way about me, then the feelings are quite mutual. And I'm very, very proud of that and happy with it.
Okay. I want to play a clip. This is you talking about, you attacking parents. You spoke out about their concerns about gay and pedophilia pornography books being placed in school libraries.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise?
Look at that hair. What is that? What is that? What is that? Holy shit. Donald Trump hair.
That you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read. What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? That's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No, we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
Now, there's also a second clip. This is you talking about Republicans exploiting concerns by minors who identify as transgender And you said this was an old age tradition which Nazi Germany did. Let's take a look.
In fact, there are more kids who have been exposed to gun violence, estimated at 3 million, than there are transgender Americans of all ages in total. Targeting trans people isn't new. It is an age-old tradition, which Nazi Germany did with brutally violent ends in the 1930s.
Now, the confusing part of all this, Joy, is what you really think about the LGBTQ plus, whatever it now is, community, right? Because as you know, when you started commentating about this, appearing to be a big ally, a lot of stuff emerged which came from posts that you had purportedly put up in a blog between 2007 and 2009, one of which said, most straight people cringe at the sight of two men kissing. Another said, I don't want to watch the two male characters in Brokeback Mountain. You were talking about having sex. Does that make me homophobic? Probably. You referred to the then Florida governor as Miss Charlie and featured the tag gay politicians. Now, you said at the time when all this emerged, I genuinely don't believe I wrote those hateful things because they're completely alien to me. I hired cybersecurity experts to see if somebody manipulated my words or my former blog. And the reality is they've not been able to prove it. Now you're not at MSNBC. Now you're on your own,
Come on, Piers.
doing your own thing,
Come on,
and you
Piers.
don't have to worry about repercussions and stuff. Are you prepared to finally
Let's
come
go.
clean and
Let's
just
go,
admit
Piers.
that
Let's
was
go.
your blog and you did say those things?
You know, Piers, I might have known that you would use this opportunity and interview and that this was your purpose, right? This is your purpose. And that's fine. This is your show and you can do whatever you like. You know, I could sit here and go on and fight with you about your strange, weird obsession with Meghan Markle, but I won't do that because that would be rude. But what I will say
to if you want to.
We can do that as well.
Sure.
But the point being that I was very open with my employer at the time about what happened with that old site, which I stopped writing in, before I even came back into the NBC family. And what I have not really talked about publicly, but what I can tell you is that I had a very legitimate reason for being concerned about it because I was also on the radio at that time. And the things that I was literally talking about on the radio were quite the opposite of the things that were in that site. That is the reason that we began investigating what was going on with that site. And there was also someone who I do not know, who I still do not know, who had login access to my site for years that we did not even discover because I hadn't looked at the site for years. I don't know who that is. I don't know why they had access to the site. But had I not been open about that, I would have been definitely fired or there would have been some repercussions. I was open with my company about that. I've been very open. Everyone who knows me knows about it. And so if you want to argue with me about an old blog site, that's fine. And I'll take responsibility. I just asked you if you did write it. And hold on. And I'm willing to take responsibility for anything that was on that site.
Did you
just yes or no, did you write it? This is all he's asking.
How for you?
Did you
but
say
hold
those
on,
things?
wait. Not to my listen. What I'm going to say
Joy.
is very simply
You said them.
What I'm going to say is very simply
you said
this,
them.
Piers.
You know you
the
did.
point that you're attempting
You
to
just
make
spun
now,
me an absolute load of
hold on
old
a second.
flannel.
The reason that you are trying to go here is that you're trying to defend the idea that Moms for Liberty and these other organizations can take books that are not pornography, that are not pornographic.
No, I'm just trying to see. I'm just trying to see whether you like to hold people to account, and I'm just trying to ask you
I held myself to
questions
account for that,
about
and I
you being held to
apologized for
account.
everything that was in that site, and I took responsibility for everything that was in that site, and I still take responsibility for everything that was in that site. I find anything that harms the LGBTQ community that was in that site repugnant. I apologize for it. I take full responsibility for it. But the point that I made in my conversation with the woman from Moms for Liberty is that they are making themselves the expert on books, which they are deeming pornographic by using a site called booklooks.com, looking for words in the book that make them uncomfortable, and then attempting to ban books by the hundreds.
Out of interest, but just to be clear,
And so I asked her,
do you think books, all right, do you think school children at school should have access to books in their library which involve strap-on dildos?
again, you're taking a book that has multiple subjects, and you're taking this award-winning book and dumbing it down to
I just asked you a simple question.
You may feel uncomfortable. And the bottom line is, these books that were published by publishers who had an opportunity.
To be fair, it's a very, very complicated answer. It's a very complicated answer. And I'm going to have to take a little time to kind of tell you how she should have answered it. And I apologize if this takes up a lot of time, but this is probably why Joy Reid didn't want to answer it in the way that, you know, she should have answered it. So here we go. No. Thank you.
To say no. Looked at these books. These are award-winning books, and I think parents should have the opportunity to opt their children out if they don't feel comfortable reading those books, but that children who are old enough and who are of age and can choose the books they want to read and may feel seen in a book that you might object to ought to have the opportunity to read that book. That shouldn't be your decision. It shouldn't be Moms for Liberty's decision. I think each parent can make the decision for their own children, and I don't think that woman from Moms for Liberty or her organization should make that decision for other people's children. People ought to make decisions for their own children. And by the way, one more thing I'll add is that in the state of Florida, parents can opt their children out of reading books that they don't want to read.
All right, let me ask you.
She could have done that like any other parent.
Have you watched Brokeback Mountain?
No.
Okay. I mean,
what is the point of that?
Well, because you said I don't want to watch the two male characters in Brokeback Mountain having sex.
Okay, so what does me watching Brokeback Mountain have to do with that
Joy.
book, whether or not it is
Joy. With the book.
Joy, just go back to being based and you'll have a ton of support. Like, we all agree, nobody wants to watch that shit. Come on, Joy, just admit it.
Book, that is a book that people can have the opportunity to read if they so choose.
No, I'm not talking about the book.
I do not understand how an organization
I'm not talking about the book.
Make a decision. It is not about the movie. It is about whether or not Moms for Liberty
I'm not talking about the book.
The organization who should make decisions for other people's children. I'm not talking about the book,
as you know.
Whether I watched the movie or not makes absolutely no difference.
I'm talking about you.
She is fucking panicking right now, dude. She has lost it. She knows that she's been exposed. She knows that the people that she has pandered to are now finding out that she said all of these things about them all of these years ago on a major show, and she is freaking out right now.
Posting on your blog that you wouldn't watch Brokeback Mountain because you don't want to see two male characters having sex. Does that make me homophobic? Probably. Most straight people cringe at the sight of two men kissing. Your words, not mine, Joy.
And your point is?
That maybe that makes you a bit of a hypocrite when you're taking the position of being an ally for the LGBTQ community. And actually, the best way to handle it, I would argue, is just to say, you know what? Actually, I did write that at the time. They're not my views now.
No. You say, I said it. You know what? Joy, right now, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to win the internet. All right? So Piers is sitting there, and he's like, did you say it? Did you say this? And you keep deflecting, keep deflecting, and then you go, you're goddamn right, I did. Boom. Jack Nicholson, you've got an epic internet moment. All right? Everybody said, hell yeah, Joy Reid is based as hell. That would be the greatest moment of your career, okay?
Involved, I've moved on. Trying to pretend even now that you didn't write it is preposterous. And I think you know that.
The bottom line is what I've said, and I will say it again, is that I take full responsibility for everything that was on that site. I'm deeply apologetic for the things that were on that site that hurt people, and I take responsibility for it because it was my site. And that's the end of that. And my views, as you know, and as I've said on television, on air, are quite different from the views that you just read. And that's the end of that.
Okay. Let's just end with this. Not everyone was upset when you were fired. Plenty of those white conservative men that you like so much seem quite happy. Let's just take a look at this clip.
Joy Reid, probably the nastiest figure on MSNBC. The most left, the most vicious against conservatives and white people and men and all the rest. She has just been canned, fired, kicked to the side of the road. Her show is over. This saddens me a little bit because I did not yet have the opportunity to go on it. I am celebrating that there is no longer a market for her disgusting product. That's what I'm genuinely happy about. There has been a major shift. Her show and shows like her show no longer have value. And that's not just because of Joy Reid's favorite villains, you know, the evil white man or the Christians or the conservatives. It's because like no one watches her show.
It's very
so
true.
Joy, I've actually got Michael Knowles waiting in the wings.
Great.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
No.
Dude, Piers is so fucking dirty at how he's doing this. I love it. It's so good, dude. It's so good.
I've actually got Michael Knowles waiting in the wings.
Great.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
No.
What did you make of his critique of your show?
Well, I mean, the reality is that obviously people watched the show, and obviously that's the reason that the show was on for 4.5, nearly 5 years. So if he didn't like the show, I guess, sorry you didn't enjoy it, but I really am not that interested in his views on it.
Okay, well, we've got Michael there. Michael, anything you want to say to Joy?
Yes, wonderful to be here, Joy. Very nice to meet you. And I guess I would agree with Joy's take. People watched the show in the past tense,
This is so
and now there's no longer.
This is so shitty of Piers to do this. Oh man. Oh, this is so fucking shitty, but I love it. She deserves it. She
a
deserves
market
it.
for that absolutely vile content, and I think that's good for the culture broadly. And now we can all chat on Pierce's show.
Joy?
The reality is, Michael, the content that you and Piers like to trade in is grievance. And the grievance that white Americans have, that they have to deal with.
I'm not American.
Diversity, that they have to deal
Yeah,
with.
this isn't a grievance.
I'm British.
I'm celebrating.
And by the way, white grievance is very good for your bottom lines. It's very good for your bank accounts. And so having me here to be able to continue to traffic in that is your shtick. That is what you
first
do.
of all,
That's
Joy,
what you do, Piers.
I have to
And so
correct you.
it's great. And I'm sure you find it delightful and fun to say it. But the reality is, Piers, that is what you all traffic in.
I
It is
have
what
to correct
Fox
you.
traffics.
Well,
I can't
first of
speak
all,
for
I'm not
Piers
a
here,
white
Joy.
American. I think as my accent may reveal.
Well, I know that you're European.
And I'm a tan
I'm
American.
British.
My only grievances are
And
tan
secondly, I don't think
I'm not
anyone. Michael, I will let you respond, but I don't think any host in the history.
I love how Piers brings Michael Knowles on to ambush her, and then Piers won't let him talk. And now Piers is so fucking like, this is so out of pocket, and I love it. And now Piers won't even let him talk. He's back to going after her.
Of cable news. Michael, I will let you respond, but I don't think any host in the history of cable news has waged more grievance than Joy Reid. So the idea that you're now hectoring us about feeling aggrieved about things, you spent years being aggrieved about absolutely everything.
Excuse me, but your favorite president, the president who you completely support, is nothing but
My
grievance.
favorite
His
president was
entire
Abraham
campaign
Lincoln.
Was grievance. His entire campaign was grievance. Well, your former boss on the
I'm not
Apprentice, or
Donald
whatever
Trump.
you want to call him, your friend. The bottom line is that Donald Trump's entire campaign was about grievance. It was about white America feeling they'd lost their country and they need to take it back. It was about white America feeling that diversity was a threat to their children being able to go to Harvard. Their
And you know what,
grievance that
Joy? In
inclusion
the
and
end,
diversity was some
in
sort-
the end-
and that is the reason
and in the end,
that you all glom onto him
and in the end-
use him to further your own bank
Actually, in the
accounts. And I
end,
get
most
it.
Americans,
That's what you're
as you
doing.
know, most Americans, having voted for him in 2016, and after Trump spent 4 years in the wilderness, and we watched the Democrats run the United States of America, people took a look at that in America, and then they voted for Trump second time round in bigger numbers, including a record number of Latinos who, last time I checked, were not white. Anyway, Joy Reid, I'm going to leave it with you. Thank you for coming on Uncensored. Next time, I'm sure we can move on.
You didn't even let Michael Knowles talk, Piers.
from the stuff we've talked about today and have a more current debate, perhaps, about other issues. But I appreciate you coming on and facing the music. And it's good to see you. Thank you very much. Well, let me come. I've got Michael and Nina Turner.
Good old Piers. That was good. That was good. I had no idea he was going to do that. I had no idea. I mean, I knew Michael Knowles was on. So I figured the Joy Reid thing was going to be like 20 or 30 minutes. I had no idea. Yeah, holy crap. That was good. That was really, really good.